Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cars That Made Us podcast. We're down here in Peterborough at the Bauer Media offices to speak to the James Dennison. James joined Bauer in 2016, a year after graduating from the University of Southampton with his English degree. After spending some time with Parker's, he got more involved with video and in 2019 became the head of automotive video for both Parker's and Car Magazine. And in 2024, he gained the award for the Newspress Automotive Video of the Year. Outside of talking about cars to a camera or writing about it, he does, racing. He drives around in his Mazda MX-5 and MG ZR, both cars he's taken to multiple wins across a variety of championships. And when he's not doing that, he's racing virtually in a simulator, things like iRacing and that sort of stuff. So I gotta say, people do a variety of jobs for a living, and people, even when it's a job that people really enjoy, they need some time away to do something else. But it seems like your remedy to spending too much time behind the wheel is to get behind the wheel.
Yeah, you're completely right, and fair enough for remembering all of that about me, because you remember things that even I've forgotten there. So that's cracking research. Fair play for that. And yeah, you are right. You kind of framed that quite nicely because, after I've done, for example, a launch and I've had to drive back from the airport, and I know that I've been driving for 9 hours, I will then jump on the virtual sim and do a race. And I think, I've just come back home to do some more driving, and I get a strange look from my partner. But yeah, that's kind of it. It helps if you enjoy yourself doing the job. So I think that stood me in good stead. But yeah, when you put it like that, it does make it sound like I'm a bit obsessed. Definitely.
Well, as we said earlier, there's certainly a dedication to the job that is required, because you've got to know so much about just motoring and cars and things. So it's more of a good quality than anything, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And to be fair, knowledge, you've got to have a certain level of knowledge to do this, but there is still quite a lot of, there's a big range of knowledge between myself and some of my colleagues. I know, for example, people that I've worked with that have probably about 3 times the amount of knowledge over cars over the years that I do, just properly encyclopedic brains, whereas I think mine is probably a bit more transient, I won't be able to remember those really geeky stats about 0 to 62 mile an hour times from 2007, but the idea is that I'll learn about a car when I'm driving it and then make a narrative out of that for the videos and then remember some key stats and impressions. But yeah, knowledge is great. But yeah, I think there's still a bit of a variation throughout the industry, definitely.
But what separates you from everyone else, from what I can see though, is that you do both print and video. Do you ever expect to be doing both? Because they're very different things.
No, and I came into doing print. I did a little bit of print when I first started as a staff writer on Parker's and Car. But that was just, the odd first drive here and there. But I did it a really strange way round, which was I did video first, and then I started doing print, which is, I don't know anyone else that's actually done that. I think that's quite unique because I was in my video role before then started doing stuff for Car, and Car needed more video, and I was the head of video for Car. So I think at one point the editor of Car, Mr. Ben Miller, he probably just thought, we want a video, we'll send James, we'll see what the writing's like, and he seems to like it. So here we are a few years later, and I'm still doing writing for Car, and despite being a video person, I'm not at all in the mindset that print is old-fashioned and old school. I still think it is quite old school, but it's still really important, and it's still a real thrill, as it were, to write for a magazine. Because there's nothing quite the same as seeing your name there and the words that you've written on paper and ink. So I still do enjoy that quite a lot.
Yeah, no, I've found a love for writing quite a lot lately. Particularly I did a work experience week with Autocar, just over a year ago.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was going in wanting to just sort of see more what car journalism is about than anything else. So, to be honest, I didn't know too many people's names.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get a feel for what this profession is, if I wanted to pursue it. And I was really blown away just because there's such an art to a really well-written feature or article. There's real beauty to it, and it allows you to use your imagination. Or, so it feels like you can really take the reader on a journey rather than just watch someone else have fun.
Yeah, that is the idea. The whole thing is about like building a narrative, especially with car. When it comes to that, we try and build a narrative predominantly through photography, because Car is a photography-based magazine. But also, then the words will kind of give some punctuation to that. And people have often said, and you mentioned it obviously in the intro, that I did an English degree. People say, "Well, what do you do with an English degree?" And actually, an English degree is about finding meaning in words or things or entities. So if you can take a narrative from an inanimate object, which is a car, then that's definitely something that I think I learned in my English degree, is kind of like pulling that meaning out and then turning it into a story. Because at the end of the day, to put it bluntly, it is just four wheels, an engine, maybe not an engine now, obviously with EVs, and some metal. So you have to inject some sort of narrative in that and then take the reader on a journey that they would potentially go on if they were to drive the car, but the next best thing is for them to live vicariously through you. So that's the whole thing about pulling the meaning out and then putting it on a page or a video.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to ask you, actually, why an English degree? But I mean, you seem to have answered the question for me.
No,
it sounds interesting. So how did you go from graduating, doing that degree? Of course, you were working in a BMW dealership at the time as well.
Yeah.
How did that jump to this?
Yeah, so I was working at BMW as a product genius, and then I was working at Audi as a customer delivery driver, which was great for someone my age, driving around in R8s and S8s and some really cool cars. And that kind of, I haven't stopped really driving cool cars since that point in 2014 when I took that job. So I've been quite lucky there. But I kind of forgot when I was at university that I wanted to do a job writing about cars. I'm not sure why that happened. And I think it sort of happened in school when I first forgot that, because I did want to do that when I was growing up. And then I started applying for normal jobs, office jobs, desk jobs, and I did have a bit of luck, but just didn't really fancy any of them. And I just suddenly thought, you know what, I am going to be a car journalist. So I joined or started writing for a blog or a website called Motorverso, which was great, nice little website. It's actually grown to a decent size now. The guy, Paul, that runs it, has done a great job. And applied for a job at Bauer Media, and I got quite lucky with the timing, because that was only 3 months after I started doing the blog writing. And then I got an interview here with a chap called Tim and another chap called Gareth. And 10 years on, pretty much, I'm still here, as is Gareth, as is Tim, who is actually my boss now as well. So it's been a nice story, but it was just a case of deciding that actually, I do want to do what I said I wanted to do when I was a kid, and then just trying to make that happen and getting very lucky with timing, which I did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it also takes a lot of hard work and a lot of just dedication to the craft. I mean, when you started out with doing your video side of things for Bauer, what were your goals with it?
I think the goals with video initially, because it was Parker's that I initially did video with in 2017, was just to establish a baseline of video, because Parker's had started doing video and then it kind of tailed off and had left it, and then it was 2017, so we were like, we need to do more video. I was keen to do it. I was a junior staff writer at the time, so I didn't have anything else to specialise in. And I thought, I think video could be good, and one of my best subjects at school was drama, so I naturally thought this is the perfect segue. Not sure how applicable that was, but jumped in front of a camera, enjoyed it, sort of stuck at it. Whereas, some of my colleagues, I think they would have liked to have done it too, but they also had other roles that probably took up more of their time. I didn't. I was, just regular staff writer, so I was able to kind of plough ahead with that and make it my niche. And as luck would have it, video in general exploded in popularity. And also it then became more and more important for Bauer, the publishing company for Parker's and Carr, to push ahead with it. So right place, right time, and a good gamble on my behalf. So yeah, it worked out quite nicely. That's how it ended up, really. It was a bit of by chance.
Yeah. So now you're here. Where would you like to see, the car and Parker's, video spaces go?
Yeah, good question. I think with car, what we really specialize in is having a 360. This sounds like business management talk, but there is a good point behind it. We specialize in being able to offer the full array of platforms. So we do web, we do mag, and we do video. And there's very few rivals. I mean, Top Gear is one of them. But aside from that, there's very few rivals that can offer the scale of what we do across those three platforms and offer it together. So it's just about, we're not going to become the next CarWow because we're not set up like that. But as long as we can deliver a video offering which is the same level of quality as the magazine delivers, then I think we're fulfilling what we need to do there. And then obviously we try and grow that as fast and as well as we can. But we serve Parkers and we serve MCN as well, motorcycle news. So we've got to bear that in mind and bear the resources in mind that we have. But as long as we can keep steadily increasing and bringing in more views and adding value and telling stories, not just through print and web stories, but also video, then I think we're doing what we need to. But obviously, we make videos to build brands and to make money. So there's the nitty gritty of that as well.
You said you'd never be the next CarWow, but to be honest, I don't think I'd want you to be. Because, well, okay, so the example I'll use is I watched one of the last videos I watched from CarWow was quite a while ago, to be honest. It was something about some new Bugatti that was being released. And the autocar video had an in-depth interview with Mate Rimac talking about the car, really getting to the nitty-gritty of, just the details. Whereas CarWow's video had Matt Watson trying to crawl underneath the diffuser.
Yeah.
One of them is clearly aimed at a much more casual audience that was built through, the years of Top Gear. And then the other one, it shows actual, it gives actual information. So, but what you're doing is you're managing to marry the character and sort of the charisma that a lot of these people who get lots of views have with the actual tangible information that you feel like you can sort of, you can touch it. And you also just learn what that means to you as a driver.
Yeah, no, that's very nice of you to say. I'm glad you said that because we do try and aim sort of at a middle ground between CarWow and, for example, Autocar, which are both brilliant titles. Huge respect for both of them in the way that they've gone about building their brands in very different ways over the years. But yeah, we could go more techie, we could go more in depth. I don't think my brain is as big as Matt Pryor on Autocar and all the stuff that he does. So I probably couldn't go that far, but we could push it a little bit further that way. And then we certainly could go more casual and more mass market towards CarWow. But yeah, we try and pick a happy medium, just balancing the numbers and how niche it is, but also giving some kind of quality to the enthusiasts that want to watch it, but also then not scaring off people that might not necessarily know anything about cars and they just want to see a nice, enjoyable cinematic video. So we do try and find a middle ground, 100%.
Yeah. And of course, you do print features, and these aren't just columns; these are whole entire features. Those things take a lot of work and effort, and on top of that, you're running the YouTube channels for 2 different publications. So how do you decide what goes to print and what you want to film?
Again, really good question, and that is a bit of a challenge, is deciding what's print worthy, what's video worthy, because we found, for example, that in print, racing cars don't work as well. They're seen as a bit too niche, whereas on YouTube, they do actually seem to work pretty well. We had some success with the 911 GT3R and GT3 Cup video a couple of years ago. But then also we can be more nuanced on print because the audience is a bit more captive, and leaving aside Apple News Plus, because that is a bit more, transient. But with the print, someone spent £7 on buying the magazine, or they've got the subscription. So that they're probably a fan, they're interested. so that you can have something which seems a little bit harder to explain in the first 3 paragraphs. You can have a hook which isn't as obvious and then sort of reveals itself throughout the article, whereas on video, you need the whole point of the video to be pretty obvious in the first 10 seconds, because otherwise someone will just click off. So there's that. And then also not being, on YouTube, the key thing is to make the same video over and over and over again, so that people know what they're going to watch before they watch it. That's one of the things. But the other thing is to be unique and to be timely. And if we're not, then that certainly hurts the performance of the video. Whereas in print, we could do a twin test of a car or a drive of a car 2 months after rivals have done it. And as long as we give a slightly different angle, we've still got a quality story in there, because people aren't expecting to see the car there and then because it's a monthly mag. Whereas on YouTube, it's like if we publish a story or a video 2 months afterwards, it's kind of a bit like we have certainly lost out no matter what we do with the car, even if it's a bit different. It's like people know about it already, so we've lost that advantage. So there's subtle differences, but for sure, it makes a difference when we're deciding what goes video, what goes print.
Yeah, and as you said, if people are willing to part with their money for the product, for the magazine, they're clearly invested. They've shown their investment. You don't have to try and sell anything to them, because you've sold them the package that they haven't even looked at yet by purchasing that magazine. But yes, with video, it's there must be quite a bit of information then that you choose to either omit or include in one platform that might not be in the other.
Yeah.
So how do you try and get across a good quality product when you have to use different information? If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think with video, we try and focus on sound as much as we can, because I think without sort of doing down other automotive creators, I think that often gets left out. Sound, it's a really big thing, and that was a videographer that we had in 2019 called Stephen. He's now in Australia, and he was really big on sound, and I've kind of taken that idea from him and pushed it forward ever since, because he was right, it makes a massive difference. And in the magazine, we have to come up with lots of lovely metaphors about how something sounds, and you try and liken it to like a screaming banshee pack of wolves or whatever you want, like that. Whereas in the video, you just kind of mention the sound and then you play it. So there's a difference there for sure. And then also in a magazine feature, we'll probably talk about the environment a lot more, where we're in, because we get to go to some cool locations, and that will form a bigger part of the article, especially if it's a 300-mile test that we're doing, which is a popular feature in car. Whereas on the video, again, we tend to focus more just on the car, and the environment is sort of a background. Because at the end of the day, people that click on the video are there to see the car. So things that you can show and hear in video, you don't need to explain like you do in print, and that's the biggest difference. But then also the environment as well, I think, plays a bigger role in print. So subtle things, but it's again, good point. It's things you need to think about if you're doing both.
Yeah, it must be a bit difficult, because as we've said, it feels like I've said as we've said so much already, but as we've said, there's a real art to a really well-written description of something, because it takes you on the journey and it lets the reader use their imagination, which is really powerful when writing a good feature. So is it hard to jump from that to a video where you basically have to ultimately just go, listen to this, and then leave it at that?
Yes, I mean, because I was video first, I still think of things in video terms, and I find a video a lot easier to write than a feature. Whereas I know, for example, Ben, the editor of Car, is the other way around. He will find a video harder to write, and he could smash out a 4,000-word feature of very good quality, unbelievably quickly. So yeah, I do find it harder to write a magazine piece, because I think every single word, because you have the ability to go back and change it, is probably slightly more scrutinized, and you can't waste words in the same way that you don't want to waste them on video. But I think you can afford a little bit of adding some sort of character in there by maybe not getting something perfect first time round, or kind of giving initial raw impressions that you can then come back to. Whereas in the mag, people want to see something quite slick, if you see what I mean, quite slickly written. Even if it's not you nailing the impression first time round, they still want to read something which is slick. So
Yeah.
probably more of a polish, I'd say, in most magazine pieces than you'll find in the videos, because a lot of the video stuff, some of it is scripted word to word, but other parts there's just prompts and then go off and say what you think.
Yeah, people really underestimate the difficulties of ad-libbing. I think. So how do you decide what is going to be scripted and what you're just going to go off the cuff with?
So if it's a car that I have driven before and I've got a really good idea of what it's like, then I'll script as much as I can. But then if it's something that I haven't driven, like we're going on a launch, then I will script the intro, because that's got to be sharp and concise. You don't want to waste any words there because of the audience clicking off watching the next video. And there'll be certain bits that I will script about what they've done to the car, and I know they've done to the car, so I can say, oh, they've moved the engine 2 degrees forward, or they've changed the rear suspension and they've stiffened up the front suspension XYZ. I can script all that easy. But then when it comes to the impressions, that's where I kind of have to leave it blank. So if it's a launch video, the general rule of thumb is that you'll see more unscripted stuff towards the back end of the video than you will at the front end. We'll often do it where we go straight into the car just because it's a bit interesting and talking about the driving, but again, that'll probably be scripted, and then the actual raw impressions will be further back in the video. And yeah, that's just, some cars you can have a very good guess at what they're going to be like, and then you can be proven wrong on the day and you have to panic and change it, or you'll more often than not be right because of platform sharing. But yeah, other cars, I think Ford Mustang GTD being an example, was kind of like, I'm really not sure what's this going to be like, because it's a Mustang, but a lot of it isn't. So I haven't driven anything like this before. So that was pretty much off the cuff, if you see that video. So
Yeah. So does platform sharing make the job less interesting, do you think? Or does
platform sharing of cars?
Yeah,
I think it does. There's a lot of, I can see why manufacturers do it 100%, because it's a business and they need to make costs work out. Otherwise, some manufacturers might go under, which we don't want. But yeah, you can definitely tell. And with EVs now being as predominant as they are, it's strange, because you can have, I drove the electric Range Rover prototype earlier this year, and then I drove, a while ago, I drove an Astra electric. And it's weird, because if you drove a petrol Astra and a Range Rover V8, the difference in the powertrain is colossal. Like, you can tell immediately that it's in a totally different league. Whereas with the Range Rover, okay, yeah, it's quicker, you get pushed back in your seat more, but otherwise you actually have to concentrate a bit more to see the differences. And you go, okay, that's a bit more linear, it picks up a little bit better, because at the end of the day, there's no sound, it goes forward when you ask it to. The differences are far more minute. So you've got a car which is completely at the different ends of the scale, and yet the powertrain feels a lot more similar than it would if it was ICE. And then obviously you've got VW Group, for example, or I think Stellantis are quite very keen on platform sharing, and cars, Peugeots, Citroens, I'm trying to think of any, Peugeots and Citroens for sure are the ones where you can really feel where it's the same car underneath.
Yeah, I do know that Citroen's looking to shake things up a bit. Their CEO spoke to, it might have been Autocar, saying that people have lost sight of who Citroen are. People don't really have that. We've lost a bit of a brand identity. So, going forward, they are going to make basically like a European K car.
Yeah.
And I'm quite looking forward to that.
Yes.
I was in Amsterdam for, a weekend, obviously, when I was in the Netherlands. I studied up in Groningen, which is about half an hour from the North Coast.
Yeah.
But in Amsterdam, you see those tiny cars everywhere. Opel Rocks are everywhere. You see a decent few Twizzys. And it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense, because I know that Renault did a study before they made the Twizy. And on average, there's only 1.4 people in a car. So that's one person, sometimes two, but usually it's just one person. And all they'll really be carrying is their shopping bags
Yeah.
or rucksack. So that's all you need 90% of the time. So those small cars make so much sense. I'm looking forward to seeing how Citroen approaches that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think manufacturers have done extremely well with EVs to come up with quality EV products as quickly as they have, given all of the pressures on them. We've seen Porsches slash in operating profits because they've spent so much money on EVs, and now they're having to think, do we need to then go back to ICE? It's chaos for them, and it's really difficult being a car manufacturer. So the fact that they've turned out all of these quality products so quickly is impressive. But yeah, now I would expect them, especially if the whole, will EVs be the silver bullet? Will they not? If there's a more solid answer on that, in terms of a favourable answer, in terms of yes, EVs are definitely going to be the only car in future, then they'll probably look to differentiate their products a bit more than they have. But at the moment, it's just been a mad scramble to get what has been extremely expensive technology and platforms together. And yes, that means that there's been some sharing, but that's all they've been able to do. So once, or if that becomes more established, then I think they'll differentiate them a lot more, because they have to sell cars, especially with new cars coming in from China.
Yeah, I mean, Toyota seems to think hydrogen is the future, don't they?
There's been different suggestions from different manufacturers.
Yeah, I'm half on board with hydrogen. I like the idea, but with the chaos that has been the switch to EVs, I would hate to see manufacturers be dragged through the mud yet again, especially after all of the years of investment into combustion engines. It's just sort of a shame to see that technology and all of those thousands of hours wasted.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a fan of synthetic fuels. Obviously, it's not the perfect answer because there is, in terms of the tailpipe emissions, they are still local. But plug-in hybrid, synthetic fuels could be a good combination. I drove a synthetic fueled MX-5 racing car a couple of years ago, had P1 fuels in it, which is the same fuel supplier for the WRC, and it ran just like it normally would. You can put the fuel straight in, absolutely fine, and it's expensive, but only because the scale isn't there. If it was scaled up, it would be cheaper, a lot cheaper. So there's definitely other strategies out there. But obviously, there's a lot of politics involved, and manufacturers spending money in areas that they've committed to. So it's a really interesting time, and hopefully it does resolve itself for everyone's sake in the next few years, because there's certainly a lot of uncertainty for car manufacturers, and obviously for the buyers that are buying the cars as well. Yeah, no, completely. Although you mentioned an MX-5, obviously you've raced one, and you also have that MG ZR. Yes. So the MX-5 makes a lot of sense to me. But tell me about that ZR. That's an interesting choice as a thing to go racing in. Yeah, so the MX-5 actually, he's just sold it, but it belonged to a friend of mine who was also racing. So I shared the car with him. The ZR is my racing car, and I just had a chance conversation with someone that had done MG ZR racing. I think just going back to like 2018 now, and it was, at the time it was pretty cheap, and I found a really good guy called Paul to run the car. There was a great series, MG Trophy, and actually, yes, there are some concerns over head gaskets in that K series engine. They've managed to improve it with parts that have been improved in future by third parties, but aside from that, it is a really good racing car, because it's quite easy to get to say 95% in it, and then it's the extra 5% where you've really got to push to find it. But it's a lovely racing car, handles really well, is actually pretty cheap, and I've had that since 2019, and hopefully we'll use it more in future, because since 22 I haven't done a full season. But it's a mega little car. I'd encourage anyone to have a go in one if they can. Yeah. But you said you don't have a daily. Is that what you said? Yeah, absolutely. I don't. That's a track only car. Because of this job, I sold my last daily car, which was a Seat Ibiza Cooper TDI, 2006 car with the 1.9 PD engine. For those that wanted to know. It was the Leon, wasn't it? That was four-wheel drive. The four-wheel drive Cupra. It might have been. I wasn't aware that they had one. They might have done, but as I said, my knowledge is more transient. But this was certainly a front-wheel drive Ibiza, and a friend of mine bought a front-wheel drive Leon FR as well. But yeah, this is a front-wheel drive Ibiza, which was my last car. But I sold it in 2016 because, yeah, I just didn't, 2017, because I didn't have enough time to drive it because I'm always in a press car, which is a nice position to be in. And, you know, certainly don't take it for granted. Yeah, but at the moment, the long-term car, which I run through Parker's, is a Passat plug-in hybrid, which isn't the most exciting car in the world, but I was really impressed with it this morning because it is not the most exciting, but it's a brilliant car. And I left home, and it's about a 110-mile drive from home to the office. I left home with the fuel warning light on, and I still got here.
What?
Because of the fuel economy, and it had a full battery, and it did about 126 miles per gallon. And this tank that I've just filled up this morning, that was 135 miles per gallon over 1,200 miles because I've been topping up with electricity. So yeah, we get to drive. I find that quite interesting with the whole plug-in hybrid thing. We get to drive some really cool cars just on a day-to-day. So unfortunately, it means I don't need my own daily car. But a lot of my colleagues in the industry do still keep their own cars, which fair play. I think I've spent my money on the racing car instead.
Yeah, no. I mean, either way, you've got a car that feels like home to be in, I guess.
Yes.
You know, you've got that ZR, you can sink into its seat and be like, okay, yeah, I'm home, baby.
Yeah,
I'm
literally.
here.
Yeah.
Which I get with my orange Nissan Micra K14.
Oh, fantastic.
I absolutely love it, and I can't really imagine a time where I'd have to give it up, as in, you know, sell it for something else. And it's crossed my mind a few times, you know, oh, I could get a Prelude from the 90s or something. That would be fun. But the Micra just does its job so well. It'll run forever. And it's just my first car, and it can go through any clean air zone, no problem. I don't have to worry about it. And I mean, you know, I can have fun with it, to be honest.
Yeah. So which year is that? Forgive me, because I'm not great on the model code.
2018.
2018. Okay, I did the launch for that car. I remember it.
Really?
Yeah, it was in Brighton.
What did you think of it?
Well, we thought at the time, it was really good. It was a solid car. I mean, there's maybe that definition has been shaken a bit in the last few years, but there's no such thing as a bad car. And I think, that Micra, it didn't win as many awards as I think Nissan at the time were hoping it would.
Yeah.
But it didn't mean that it wasn't a really solid car. And I just remember thinking, this is like the Micras when I was a kid. This is so far ahead of it.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's a decent looking car as well.
Yeah, it's good looking. It's aged really well.
Yeah.
And it's just quality because, they wanted to win a ton of awards with it because the previous one sold terribly. They moved manufacturing to, somewhere much further east from building them here. So now these ones they built in France with the Clio. So, you park it next to a Clio and you say, they're clearly siblings. But I've driven a Clio, I learned to drive in one, that's what my instructor had, and it was way worse to drive.
Interesting.
It was worse in every conceivable way.
Right.
And just the quality of it, the Micra feels just, it's just a nice space to be in.
Oh, good.
But of course, I'm also looking forward to, expanding what I have in my garage. But, if I end up in this line of work, which I'm hoping I do, end up in it full time. Because I'm sort of half doing it, as you can see already. It's cool to have just a variety of different things that you're road testing.
Yeah, good to have different benchmarks for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So much fun.
Absolutely.
And then every now and then, of course, you get to do something really special, like that Huayra R Evo Roadster.
Well remembered.
My God, that name took some revision.
Yeah, it did, and I actually forgot the Roadster part, and then the Pagani. I took my piece to camera, and the Pagani PR was just like Roadster.
Yeah. Why do they name it like that? Why can't they just have?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but I think Horacio is how it's pronounced. Pagani, I think he's earned the right. He's a very, very cool man, proper legend, and is it a Roadster? It's not really a Roadster. It's just the roof panels pop out, but it's such an amazing car. I think they've got a bit of leeway with it. I mean, those sort of cars are like just so special. Yeah. And just have everything analog as well. With the amount of screens that we surround ourselves with nowadays, I would take any excuse that I can to not
look at a screen.
Screen,
And, I used to have a smartwatch. I don't anymore because I don't need to look at an LED screen to check the time.
Yeah.
And when I'm driving, it's nice to have Apple CarPlay. It's great for a daily, but a lot of the time I know where I'm going when I'm driving somewhere. So I don't need it. I like music, but I don't need a screen to see what I'm doing. So it's nice to just have something that I clip my phone onto the dash. Yeah. But I'm so happy to just take that off and just be with the cabin.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I don't think you're alone in that either. There's a lot of people that are a bit fed up with the amount of screens in cars now, for sure.
Oh my God, the Mercedes super screen or whatever they call it is
pretty big.
Have you seen it in person?
Yeah, I've seen it in person.
What do you think?
I think it works for the audience they are going for, which is heavily tech influenced. I think it's a bit much personally, but then the screen in the Passat is genuinely huge as well. It's not as big as the Mercedes type screen, but everyone gets in my car and goes, "The hell, that's massive!" But it works really well. So it's a tough one. That I do still like physical controls, though, especially for the climate and this. You don't want to be pointing on a screen.
Yeah, but you're right. There's a new market, which is tech people. So many of what you see, particularly on Instagram, on Reels, all of these short form videos, and what you see on YouTube, a lot of the things that Tesla has popularized, which is screens, and companies like Polestar, not considering themselves car companies, they consider themselves a tech company. Which is, it's really polar opposite to motoring.
Completely.
So as a journalist, how do you try to pivot how you write about something based off of who that car is meant to appeal to? If it's a tech car, how does your approach change?
I think it depends where they're aiming the car, because we're always trying to think of what the reader is thinking rather than what the manufacturer wants us to think. So it's always what the reader is thinking. And if we think it's going to be cross-shopped in the same way that a Tesla might with a Mercedes or BMW, then the comparisons are really applicable. Whereas we wouldn't, for example, compare a Tesla with a Morgan or a Caterham, because they are polar opposites. But it's always from the reader's point of view. So the company says, look, we're a tech company. For a Tesla, for example, we're not going to review it any differently because they say it's a tech company. We're still going to put it through the same sort of rigorous review in the same way we would a BMW i4 or a Mercedes. The new one, that's what it's called, with the super electric range. So we're always going to review it in the same way.
It's. Oh my God, what I was about to say just completely left my head. God, that's annoying.
Oh, that's right.
No, I'm sure you get that. I mean, do you ever get that when you're trying to interview someone and you have a question in your head, you're like, oh, press them about that. And then it just completely disappears. Yeah, no,
definitely. I mean, I've done quite a few interviews, and the first one I ever did in this job was with Lewis Hamilton. And I can't.
No way.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've not been able to replicate one that's been that good since, despite some really impressive people. That was quite fun. It was the first interview, and I only because it was a round table, right? I think I only did 2 or 3 questions and had them written down in front of me, and I think I was still shaking as I asked them because I was very excited.
Oh,
as a 22, 23-year-old, that was fun.
I mean, sort of the ultimate start to your journey, really.
Absolutely. I won't say it's all downhill since then, but there's been an element of I've peaked with the interviewee there.
Well, but we don't know who the next Lewis Hamilton's going to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, but that said, I've got to say, I've really fallen out of love with Formula One over the past few years. People talk about it like it is, the sort of the ultimate form of racing, and obviously, Liberty Media have done so much to get new types of fans in there. But as a result of that, I feel myself completely disassociated with that space, or at least more disassociated with it now, because a lot of people seem to care more about, what the drivers are turning up to the race weekend wearing, or what they, they seem to be more involved and interested in who the drivers are outside of racing. So when someone asks me, are you into F1? And I go, yeah, I follow it. And they say, oh my God, do you, and they find out I'm a McLaren fan. They're like, do you like Oscar or Lando? And my answer is probably quite boring for them. Is if they win, I'm fine with them. It's, all I care about is if they can get in that car and actually go to first position. I don't have any personal opinions on who they are as people. I just care if they win and if they do their job.
No, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I think, it probably differs from most, a lot of F1 fans now. But I know what you mean. It's Formula One. Yeah, I still think it is the pinnacle. It's fantastic. But having said that, in the last few years, there's been some interesting stuff. I mean, Liberty Media need to make as much money from it as possible, for sure. So there's nothing wrong with that. But my issue, I think, has been some of the on-track stuff. It just feels like with some certain stewarding decisions and then team orders, swapping things around, it's kind of just gone a little bit. And the racing on track hasn't been as good with the latest regulations. So I'm hoping. But I've heard mixed things. But I'm hoping that next year will be a bit of a reset, and hopefully we'll be able to get the on-track action back to where it was at its height. But we'll see. I've heard some mixed reports, so jury's still out.
Yeah. So speaking of Liberty Media, and obviously you work for Bauer ultimately, who are these people have to make money. At the end of the day, that is the goal. This magazine, and it's just the way they choose to do so. I know in the music industry, there is a bit of a tussle between music and the music business in that, one is about, it's an art and it's an expression. Trying to pair that with making money can be quite difficult because, a lot of the time that art can't be, the ultimate money-making thing. Yeah. So do you think in motorsport there's, particularly with Liberty Media and how they're handling F1 things now, obviously they own Dorna with who run MotoGP. Have you seen there be a bit of a rift between racing and the racing business?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I think as long as it doesn't spill over onto the track.
What's stopping it, do you think?
You'd have to believe in the impartiality of the FIA and the stewards on race weekends and the drivers, all playing their part on track. And I think the drivers do for sure. But you just need to make sure that you don't get a movie script happening on track. And I think that's a lot of the controversy in Abu Dhabi 2021, where yes, it did feel like, especially since the rules were not strictly adhered to, it kind of feels like it was setting up a movie script because you can't have a championship end under safety car, whereas in reality, that's what the rules say. And sometimes racing doesn't give you the fairy tale finish. You can have someone come from the back of the grid and it's a great script, and then they can get to first place and then they can bin it on the final lap and they're back to, nothing again. So that's the thing, is that you can't script it. And I think as long as the powers that be stay away from trying to script and engineer, then we'll still have a really good racing series. It's just if that kind of carries over, which, you just have to have faith that it won't, that's when you've got a bit of a problem, I'd say. So yeah.
But on the complete other end of all of that really is, you and your MG.
Yeah.
Because it's as raw as it gets.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How did you get involved with racing?
So it's karting when I was a kid, and then again there was a gap, and then I decided that I want to do some racing. So I bought the MG, which was fairly cheap, and then COVID hit, so that kind of stalled it a bit. But since then, since 2019, I've done at least one race, usually more, every year. And it's been great fun. And then I got into sim racing because of COVID. I did sim race again when I was a kid, and then stopped, and then came back into it. And what I like about sim racing is it allows you to do the ideal sort of level of racing without any of the pitfalls that come with it, such as your car breaking down, such as this not being right or that not being right. Everyone has the level playing field, which is why Max Verstappen, for example, said sim racing is harder than real racing, because you've got very few barriers to entry, and it means that you can have some really talented kids or adults from around the world, and they can come and race Max Verstappen because there's nothing to stop them. Whereas Formula One, do we think that the 20 most talented drivers, as brilliant as the F1 grid currently is, and they are incredible drivers, are they the 20 best in the world? Probably there's a few that would argue that. So, but with sim racing, it's like you are just going to find the best in the world because there's nothing stopping them. It's fine. It's a 4-figure outlay on a sim, but that's a hell of a lot better than going real racing. So yeah, that's why I think that's so good from that point of view.
Yeah, but I bet nothing can beat actually being in a car. Nothing can replace that.
No, it doesn't, and they are two different things in that respect, and they've managed to make sim racing extremely close. But yeah, I think the ultimate thrill that you'll get from winning a race in real life versus winning a race on the sim, if they're the same sort of race, yeah, it's better in real life. But the gap has certainly closed a lot just because of that level of competition as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, winning in real life is very cool.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you've won a few races with your MG.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely into double figures. Yeah. And we won with the MX-5 as well. So yeah, we've had had good fun with it.
Yeah. So obviously you don't have the MX-5 anymore, but if you did, what would your favorite be between the two?
I think the MG for me was still my favourite just because I had more time in that car. And yeah, I had more memories with it because that's kind of what makes it the favourite. But the MX-5, we raced it. We did actually race it on some better tyres that were equivalent to the MG tyres. But yeah, for most of the time, I think the MX-5 was slower than the MG as well. And the MG wasn't ever the quickest thing in the world. Surprisingly quick, but yeah, I'd still say the MG, but yeah, the MX-5 is a great thing to race. You can do it on the BRSCC package. They've got a Clubman, they've got a National Series, and 750 Motor Club also has an MX-5 Mark 1 series. So there's so many cars around, and you'll have a race. If it's a 40-car grid, you'll have a race with someone, no matter your ability. And it's so close, so tight. So if anyone is looking into getting into club racing, a Mark 1 MX-5 is a very, very good place to start.
Yeah. I mean, it's popular for a reason, really, that MX-5.
100%, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so shifting things slightly, of course, you don't have a daily, but you do have, company cars, I suppose you could say. And then you've got the MG as well. But obviously, you do so many different road tests and things with various different pieces of kit. Have there been any standout cars lately that you've driven?
Yeah, I think this year I mentioned the Mustang GTD. That was really good fun. I loved the character of that car. But then the Huayra R Evo Roadster, and on the same weekend, or the same week, was the Ferrari F80 launch, which was crazy that we did those all in the same trip. But yeah, Ferrari F80 was mega on track, but I was really more impressed with it how it was on roads because, to be honest, I'd driven the Huayra R Evo Roadster 2 days prior. And on track, it was levels above the Ferrari, even though the Ferrari was great. The Huayra R Evo Roadster was a long way ahead because it was a track-only car. It was a racing car underneath. It was as quick as an LMP2 car. So yeah, the Ferrari was just impressive for what it was, how it could tame all of that and be a brilliant road car, which is what I loved about it. So yeah, those three cars I think stand out so far this year. But it's usually when I get to drive some of the older stuff, some of the racing cars, where just really blown away. Porsche GT1 that won Le Mans in '98, that was mega. 917-30 Can-Am car, the Dakar 911, mega. So yeah, those are the ones that I think stand out in my brain anyway.
Yeah. So with all of these trips, then, what's the roadmap like from planning? From being told by, I suppose, Phil or someone, one of the editors, that, okay, there's this shoot happening. So what's the plan like from there right up until when, the camera's on and...
Yeah, so we've got, we see the launch invites come in. So either I'll flag it directly and I'll say, look, this is a great opportunity, or I will make the video opportunity all by itself, because some of the videos you won't find in the mag, they're video only ops. And then sometimes, it will be Ben from Car or Piers, who's the deputy editor, saying, oh, we've got this, do you fancy a video on it? And I'll go, yeah. And it's the same with Parker's. They'll put a video request in. They say they want to film this car, and we'll go, yeah. The videographer will do that. And then again with MCN as well. And MCN is certainly I mentioned because it is bikes, so it's different to four-wheel content, but it's the biggest channel. We've got about a massive YouTube channel, and they are market leaders. So yeah, lots of different processes on how it all happens, but yeah, at the end of the day, it is still boots on the ground filming videos, which is the tricky bit.
Yeah, but it's also the most fun, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, not that I've had anywhere near as many shooting days as you.
It's still good fun.
But yeah,
we still enjoy it, which you need to really if you're doing as many as we do. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your approach like between Parker's and car then? Obviously, different markets.
Yep.
Completely.
So Parker's, the website, is kind of, there will be some enthusiasts going on it because it's like an encyclopedia, but you'll often get people that are car buyers, and they're only car buyers every 2 or 3, 4 years, maybe more. So we kind of think, right, we've got to appeal to an audience that has zero assumed prior knowledge assumed. So we have to spoon feed a lot of the information and make it super clear. Whereas with car, it's an enthusiast platform. So we can assume prior knowledge, and we'll focus a lot more on the emotion of a car and the looks and this and that. So, but with video, we then do have to sort of push Parker's across to being a bit more enthusiast, because we want people to come back and to subscribe to video channels and to come and watch our videos all the time. So we do have to bear that in mind. We have to flex the definition of the brand a little bit. But car, it's just enthusiast all the way. Same as it is on a mag, same as it is on the web.
Yeah.
But yeah, Parker's between web and video. There's a slight differentiation, I'd say.
Yeah. And then on the other side, there's MCN.
Yes.
So, so you don't have I know you don't have any personal cars, but aside from the MG, but obviously that's not road going. Do you have any bikes?
No, I don't. My biking knowledge is actually very slim. I just happen to be the head of video for MCN, but there's a really talented team that we work with, the Automotive Hub. They do a great job with the MCN videos, and there'll be a lot of recognisable faces doing those videos. Michael Neves, for example, has been in the game for years and always does a mega job. And then Joe, who's often filming those MCN videos and making the productions that you see. But yeah, they really know their stuff about bikes. Me, not so much. I know about video, but yeah, it's certainly more four wheels for me.
Yeah, same. My bike knowledge is very slim. I was coming back from Ireland to visit some friends, and I was in the airport in Cork, and I did buy a copy of Bike Magazine and Classic Bike with the intention of reading it cover to cover.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those people who, see a magazine, I'm like, yes, this. But, it's like I'll read a few, pieces here and there, but ultimately it just ends up on the ever-growing pile of magazines. But I just know that there'll be like a day or a couple of days where I just power through all of it.
Really interesting.
Yeah, because I just, out of nowhere, I would just sort of like, the itch will just exist out of nowhere. It's like, I want to read some magazines.
Yeah.
I've been subscribed to Science Focus since I was 12, 13 maybe. So I've always liked magazines, but of course, different platforms, you have to write and think very differently. But yeah, it's always just out of nowhere. I just go, let me just check the newsstand. Let me just see what's there. And there'll be different stuff depending on where I go and where I am. But yeah, it's sort of been quite fun picking up different magazines, seeing how they do things differently, and just how that makes you feel.
Yeah.
And as great as video content can be, it feels like you're opening, it's like reading a book versus watching a film.
Yes.
You're sort of opening your mind to a different universe when you're picking up a magazine. So Autocar feels so much like the automotive newspaper. Yeah. I love that. I love checking in with all the news. I mean, those guys are automotive eggheads.
Machines.
It's insane. Their level of knowledge knows no bounds. Yeah. Whereas sort of Octane makes me feel sort of I don't know. It's sort of obviously Jay Leno did a column. Yeah. I don't know if it's a continual thing that he does for Octane.
Okay.
But you pick that up and you see all of the adverts for, buy secondhand, well, obviously, buy Aston Martin DB5s and things. And I think, God, this makes me feel sort of really upmarket, really Octane.
Yeah,
and then Car and Evo are just this perfect balance of real enthusiast information.
Yeah.
That's, might be about something older, but also something quite new too. There's just such a range. And it's so nice delving into different ones and picking out different bits. So, yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. I think, print is still such a wide variety of, of quality.
I just wish more people, I suppose, picked it up and gave it a chance. At least younger people, because there's so much info online. There's just not so much of an incentive to sort of bother, I suppose, picking up a magazine and giving it your time, especially when all the stuff online is free.
Yeah, completely. I mean, like vinyl, hopefully it has its resurgence, but certainly there's been a steady decline. But I think the decline is becoming steadier and steadier and steadier. So there may just be a point where actually it's reached saturation, and you can start playing around with that audience in terms of making a higher quality product, maybe a less frequent product. But I think that's where it's going. It's certainly seen as a luxury, a quality item now.
Yeah,
where
it
that
really
leaves
is.
weeklies, I'm not sure, because they are at a disadvantage because news is always faster online. But for monthlies like Car, like Top Gear, like Evo, I think there's still a lot of mileage in that. Yeah,
definitely. Although I think there's still a big market for weekly stuff. Just because that some information comes out immediately, but I like Autocar because it feels like reading the paper.
Yes.
I'll pick it up and I'll flick through, okay, there's my automotive news. And then I can put it down and then return to it later.
Yeah.
With news on your phone, obviously I've studied this over the past few years, news is this constant thing. It's never truly out of your mind because there'll be notifications and you sort of dip in and out of it. And I don't like that. I like flicking my mind to this thing that I want to focus on for this portion of time.
I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that you can't do with web.
No, you can't. But then obviously when you work for video, you don't know truly who your competitors are going to be because everyone has slightly different feeds.
Yeah, for sure. So it's still a guessing game in that respect, but you can still, we can see what other videos are being watched around ours. So you get an idea, but otherwise it's finger in the wind to some degree with some educated guessing.
Yeah. But it's fun though, I imagine. I mean, obviously you're so good in front of a camera. You clearly like presenting and doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at this point, when you go in and do a video, do you just go in and it's sort of one and done, as in all sort of generally done in one take? Or do you often like to go back and go, I think there's a better way I can say this? And
I think it depends, and it also depends kind of what form I'm on the day, because there's been, a couple of times where I can think, it just took me ages to get that right and how I like it. Like we could probably a lot of the time go with the first take, but I will just try and, if we can, improve it a little bit. But it just depends what the sort of time we have. But I do quite like, for example, when we do a racing car and it's quite loud in the cockpit, I'm just giving a live commentary as I'm driving it. I enjoy doing that because it comes out pretty well usually. And it's all like first take stuff.
I really like that actually. When you've got a helmet and you've got a mic that's really, it's basically inside your mouth.
Yeah.
And even then you have to raise your voice.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant though. It just feels raw and real.
Some of those are the best experiences for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, can you hint at anything you've got coming up?
What have we got coming up? I'm pretty sure what can we say, actually? That's a good question. I mean, there's some new supercars, hypercars coming up. I'm just going through the embargoes in my head of what we can do. I've got a video on the plug-in hybrid Passat asking about the future of plug-in hybrids, because I think that's quite interesting. There is a racing car review upcoming, some more of the usual suspects. But annoyingly, they embargo a lot of our stuff, so we're not allowed to say that we're on a launch or that we're there or anything
Yeah,
until it
yeah.
gets published. Otherwise, yeah, I'd love to have a chat about it. And it does feel strange sort of saying, well, I can't talk about this car yet, because, you know, at the end of the day, it is just impressions on what a new Lamborghini or what a new Aston Martin or Ferrari or whatnot is like. It's not financial secret financial data. But saying that, you know, if we give a car a terrible review, if a company is, you know, is on the stock exchange, for example, then, you know, we probably could, you know, cause a bit of a wobble, especially if it's, you know, going to be like a new SUV, which is supposed to turn around the fortunes of a company. If the media across the board just say this is pretty crap, then yeah, we probably will have an impact on it.
Well, no, I mean, there is an SUV that's coming out in a couple of years, obviously regarding a certain sports car manufacturer
Yeah.
that will, I mean, the M1 Porsche is going to have a front bias powertrain.
Yeah, so the Porsche one that's supposed to fit in above the Cayenne is going to be fascinating, because it was originally going to launch with an electric only powertrain, and then I think there was a question over what other powertrains it might have, and now it's going to launch as a petrol plug-in hybrid.
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to see what happens there. And the Cayenne is a big car, so this is going to be even bigger. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of those cars that is very much caught up in the middle of an electric sort of petrol, ICE, internal combustion engine firestorm, where it may be a case of right car, wrong time. We'll see, but that'll be quite interesting.
But if we look back to things that you can talk about, where embargoes don't exist, on your journey to get here, are there any particular cars that you think you can owe some of your, not necessarily success, but what did I write? What cars have been most important to your career, would you say, to get?
Yeah, the one that stands out most is the Ferrari 488 Pista, because that was the first car I did a car magazine video on.
Okay.
And it was also the first Ferrari that I'd driven. And it was quite surreal, because I turned up at the Ferrari HQ, which I don't think is giving anything away to say it's actually in Slough in the United Kingdom, the press office. So I turned up there, I'd never driven a Ferrari before, and met the Ferrari press manager. And he just handed me the keys and essentially said, have fun, and showed me how to use all the controls on the car, which I thought was very game of him. Thankfully repaid his faith by bringing it back in one piece. But yeah, that car was spectacular. And it was, I think, even though I hadn't driven anything at the time with that much power, I still look back on it and I still think, that car, still one of the quickest road cars I can remember driving. The engine was rabid. Yeah. It was utterly astonishing how quick it was. And the video sort of kick-started car. But then also the 911 GT3, which we won a News Press Award for in 21. That was mega. Shot that with Alba Studios in South Wales, and it was the first time I'd done a shoot with them, where they had full control over the shoot. And it was James Hollins, the videographer, and his business partner Katie, and Katie was there, and they thought it had gone terribly, the shoot.
Really?
Really, and I thought it had gone quite well. But they thought it had gone terribly, and then to cap it off, I think from their point of view, I got a puncture on the way home.
Oh no!
Actually, the video turned out brilliantly. So it's a classic thing of creatives thinking they've done a terrible job and actually turning out brilliantly. Yeah, but I got a puncture in that poor GT3, and I remember phoning Porsche and being extra embarrassed, because on the launch of the 911 GT3 in the UK, because it was COVID, it was 2021, international launches were banned. They got a car over from Germany, shark blue, and we had Bedford Autodrome to drive the car, and it was amazing because we had Richard Pardon, who's one of the best photographers in the world for automotive, shooting it, and it was quite surreal. So perfect setup basically. And Porsche had the tyres that the car was supposed to come on, but they only had one set of them. Otherwise, I hope they don't mind me saying, but we had to use other tyres for big, smoky, drifty shots, just because we didn't want to destroy that one set of tyres. And then I went out with the car on that one set of tyres and then promptly picked up a puncture. So that was the second time that I'd punctured the GT, the 992.1 GT3. But yeah, I think the Pista and the GT3 really stand out as just being cars that I will never forget in this role in terms of getting me personally to where I am.
Yeah. So that Pista must have been quite interesting because you'd never driven a Ferrari before then. So, and obviously you can do as much research as you would like about a company, the way their cars drive, but it's so different from actually just doing it.
Yeah.
So how did you go about doing that review when you actually had no background experience driving Ferrari's cars?
I think you have to tread around it quite carefully. So I wouldn't make a direct comparison. I wouldn't go, I was trying to think what it was a 488. So before that, it was a different engine. You wouldn't compare them anyway. But for example, with the front end of the car and how it feels, I wouldn't go, oh, this feels sharper than the 488, sorry, than the 458. I wouldn't do that. But I would certainly go back and look at previous reviews that Car had written about previous cars, and I might pick up on points and say, the 458 was famous for having this or X or Y or Z, and then I might try and link that into something on the 488. But I'd never want to try and lie to the audience and say, oh, I think this doesn't quite feel the same, because it wouldn't feel as authentic. But now I've driven pretty much, I think, every Ferrari since that 488. I can actually go back to the recent past where the comparisons are most applicable, because turbocharged engines, now V6 engines. I can make those direct comparisons over the last few years. But when especially when I first started doing it, it was interesting. But still with Porsches, actually, because they're sticking with naturally aspirated at the moment in their GT3 RS, you can still draw back to going back quite a few years and then having to sort of go make that link that I mentioned from what other people have said, but then steer it very much back to my impressions. Although I've been lucky enough to since that drive quite a few of the older classic, or quite classic, but getting there 911s, for example. So it's a fine balance for sure. I know some content creators would probably just sort of lie and just say, oh yeah, this is the comparison. But we'll try and not do that.
Well, the benefit of you being an actual publication is that you do have a wealth of knowledge in your back catalogue that you can call from, that is reputable.
We can go back onto print issues that we know have been subbed a million times.
You've got a huge archive.
100%. Which is really useful.
But even then, still, I imagine the job must have got quite a bit more easy when you had more things that you had driven, right?
Yes, and maybe no, because then you might feel like you're pressured to make comparisons. Whereas I think some people, like in that 488 Pista video, I think they just kind of appreciated, and it suggested as much in the comments that they appreciated. Someone said, "Oh, they've thrown Junior to the wolves a bit here." So they because they always and I'm not just saying this to brag, but people do seem to think I'm younger than I am in the videos. They really just think I'm a kid. And when I did that video, how old was I? I was 24, I think, and they really just thought I was like 18. So I think they kind of appreciated that I was just giving my impressions, and to hell with other Ferraris. I was just giving my impressions of what it was like at the time, because comparisons, you can read about that from some of my older colleagues that have driven the cars in the mag, but just to get a raw, visceral impression, then hopefully that's what I was communicating in that particular video, which I think maybe was endearing in itself, I'm not sure. But I think still people do seem to think I am younger, but they've clocked that I've been doing this for a while now, so I can't be as young as they think.
So, but even starting at the age you did is really good, especially, I'm somewhat surprised actually, because a lot of manufacturers want someone who has been driving for a good while and just, someone who clearly has the know-how to know what they're talking about. And obviously, you've always known what you're talking about. But you came in at quite a young age.
Yeah, I mean, that's true though. I couldn't drive some cars. For example, Nissan GTR, I couldn't drive that car until 2024.
I did like little, one of those, I got like a driving experience
Yes.
thing for my birthday, and I drove a GTR. I want one
What was the company called? Do you remember?
I can't remember. They were based up in York.
Oh, okay.
So I went from Sheffield, and it was just some airfield that I can't remember the name of.
Yeah. So I'm referring to the Nissan press office, like the official Nissan press car. Yeah. Otherwise, if it's a private owner, you can do what you want. But in terms of the age limit, they had a 30 age limit, and I think they were really enforcing that hard. I mean, I heard someone from Top Gear said the same thing, that they were like, I couldn't get to drive it either. But Bauer does have its own cover, so we can insure cars ourselves, which allowed me to drive a lot of cool stuff before the age of 25, before the age of 30. But I remember, Porsche, I think for some of their cars are 21 and over. Alfa Romeo, you could drive. I remember the Quadrifoglio, I could drive that from like 18 onwards, I think, whereas VW up had to be 25. So it's just different policies for different manufacturers. And actually, that was the same time as I had a Leon Cupra long-termer, which is obviously the same group, and that had 320 horsepower. But, it's I don't blame them. I think they've just got different insurers. It's probably not their decision all the time. And then Ferrari's policy, when I went to drive it, I think it's just a case of, case-by-case basis. I think they would say no if they didn't like the look of you when you were 50. So, But it definitely varies a lot. And it was a bit of a shock coming from a garage where we were on a trade policy where I could drive anything from the age of 17. Because, the company that I worked for had no age policy. So I was able to just jump in an R8 straight away and have fun in that, which we did. But then when I came here, it was like, no, you've got to be this age to drive a VW up, which was like, interesting.
Yeah. Considerably less cylinders in an up.
Yeah, less cylinders. You can still have a lot of fun in it. And I remember going on the launch of the Up GTI and having, great fun with that. So, there's still potential to cause a crash. But there's certainly some different rules out there for different manufacturers. So that was fun.
Yeah. So I imagine you got into working in dealerships as a means to get closer to the automotive space, right?
No, because I didn't know at that point. I wasn't obsessed at that point of getting a job in this industry. Okay. So the reason I got into dealerships was because I like cars. Yeah. And I was looking for a job at university that I could pay to go karting with, or I could pay to go out and have fun with my mates. So I was like, well, what do I know about cars? Should I try and get a job at a car garage? And then, I got a job at BMW in Southampton through my very good friend Pete, who got me that job, which was very nice of him. And then this sounds terribly nepotistic, if that's a word, but I then got the job at Audi because my dad gave me a bit of a hand with that because he knew someone that was working at the main dealer. But I did get this job. I'm just going to say I didn't have any help with this job. I got this one completely off my own back. But those two I did have a bit of help.
Well, the thing is, you wouldn't have got it in the first place if the people didn't know you were capable of doing it. So that's what I always think. Sure, yes, it's a lot of who you know, but also it's what you can do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think there probably could have been a number of me that could have done those jobs, but I think I was right place, right time, right contacts. Who you know. But they were great fun. Yeah, working at Audi for sure, driving all the different customer cars and cars we had at the garage. It was a really good introduction to driving different cars and being careful because they were customer cars and didn't damage any customer cars, thank God. Being careful with those and but then kind of recognizing different things in how they drive, and that was good fun. I mean, they're all Audis obviously, but you can still tell the difference between a premium one, or they're all premium, but between a smaller, cheaper one and a more expensive one. For example. And I remember thinking, RS. This was the time when RS4 and RS5 was naturally aspirated, so the engines in those, God, they were amazing. really amazing. And then the R8 obviously still was. That was standout. S1, that was a great little hot hatch, really underrated, all-wheel drive, 230 brake, I think, 2-litre petrol, brilliant car. Absolutely underrated, love those things. But yeah, gone off on a bit of a tangent there about Audis, but yeah, no, that was good fun, that job.
Yeah, no, I mean, I imagine. I mean, so you said you never crashed any of the cars, but did you ever get close? Was there ever like a near miss or anything, or?
No, I don't think that. Genuinely, no. You know, there's going to be things on the road where someone does something disagreeable, should we say, where they come quite close, but you get that and everything. But yeah, no, there was nothing that happened there. You know, we've certainly had some you know, moments where we've been on track doing this job where it's been a bit like, oof, you know, that's a tricky shot to get because it has to be sideways on a fourth gear corner or something. You're just like, I really don't want to do this, but there's going to be a really good shot there. And some of my colleagues are really good at just sending a car sideways, but a lot of people, and I'm sort of getting a little bit better at it, but a lot of people, you know, Jamie Chadwick, I know, because we worked on a video years ago, and
really?
She was in 2021. She was like, I can't do sideways stuff. I can drive a car quickly and get a lap time, but don't ask me to do sideways because I can't do it.
Yeah.
It really depends on who it is, definitely. But yeah, you know, safety always comes first because we do have camera and camera people in the line of fire sometimes. You know, they're wearing high vis, they're behind a barrier, but still got to make sure they're okay. That's the main thing.
So is it quite regular then? You have the videographer or photographer saying, all right, do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they always want, you know, if we've got a good location, a safe location to do it in, they'll say, can we get a bit of action, a bit of attitude? Because it looks great on photo and video, especially photo, I think, having a sideways shot just with the car clearly, with the rear wheels overtaking the front wheels. It looks a hell of a lot better than an understeer shot. If you ever see an understeer shot, it looks terrible. So if you see an oversteer versus understeer, the difference is wild. That's a very common thing that you'll get photographers and videographers asking for that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I suppose rounding off then, what is, do you have an idea of, you know, where you want things to go in the future with, you know, I suppose your career, but as also with car and Parkers and MCN?
Well, I really enjoy, from a personal point of view, doing the presenting still. And I just want to make sure that our videos get seen by as many people as possible, and as many people as possible enjoy those videos. So I'm always open to presenting automotive videos. I do a lot of instructing as well on tracks and on motorsport, so love doing that. Great to do more in future, and then the same with the racing. Again, want to do more in future. And then in video in general, at Bauer, I mean, we've got 3 great brands, Parker's Car and MCN, and it's just about pushing them forward so that the video is delivering a good equivalent to the print and the web publications, because as I said, that's our biggest strength, is that we can offer a platform of everything. Whereas, you know, you look at someone like CarWow, and as massive as they are on video, they can't do print. You know, they can't do the same sort of in-depth features and culture that we do with web articles. Their reviews are very good, but yeah, they can't do that. And as such, some manufacturers won't find them, despite their massive video numbers, as attractive on a launch. Hence why you won't see them on a Ferrari launch, for example. So not just digging out CarWow, because they've done a brilliant job, but yeah, I think it's our range and breadth of platforms that we do so well. So just to keep that going from a video side, that's my responsibility. So yeah, carry on doing that, and then also hopefully bring some more brands in that might not necessarily be automotive, but still really good opportunities on video. So that's my Bauer business sort of hat on versus personal one. So quite a long answer.
Yeah, well, whatever the future holds, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you very much. It's been great, and best of luck with the podcast.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Right. So that's it.